Good morning. I hope you can hear me on this. I apologize for my voice. COVID did get me. John did share. Alright, I'm going to switch to my favorite applique stitch, which is a double blanket stitch. I like my setting at 2.5. That works for me. Your machine, of course, is going to be different, and you'll find a stitch that you like. Now with this stitch on mine, the edge of my fabric goes all the way over. Where did my foot pedal go? I'm not going to get much done if I can't drive. There we go. And I'm using a gray, because I think that will make the beiges show up really well. And I don't sew really fast. I've got my speed set about halfway. I really like how the gray thread is making the cream pop out. Here, for some reason, my machine, the bobbin, messes up every time I use the thread cutter. So I don't use the thread cutter very often. Instead, I'll take an extra stitch and just move over. I'm going to move over to the snout so I can go around the snout and then come around the cheek, and that's picking my needle up fewer places. Take a little extra stitch. I probably need to take my machine in and have it serviced. And you just sew at a speed that you are comfortable with. Kind of guide your fabric. Pivot. Pivoting is your friend. Now with the fast machine, I don't have to have a stabilizer under here. It's got a really neat automatic feed that hooks into the foot and helps pull the fabric through. But if you're using an older machine or a machine that just bunches up on you a lot, you can put a stabilizer under this, and there's lots of things you can use. On my old Singer, I always used flattened coffee filters because they were easy to tear off. had been making this quilt to give as a gift and not as a test for myself, then I would have used better fabric. But since it's just going to end up, laying here around the house with me and the dogs using it, I don't mind this inexpensive fabric. But you can see, if I'd had quilt shop quality fabric, even with a solid, you would not be able to see the background through this. Now that's not going to bother me, and the quilt will still be used just as much as if I'd used better quality fabric. I just did not get out to a quilt shop. Now, I'm still debating in my mind if I'm going to go change thread colors to black for the black, because it would look better, because it would make the black really stand out as black. But I am notorious for not wanting to do eyes and faces, and I have to make up my mind. Am I going to change thread color and run the risk of not finishing this project, or am I gonna just do it in gray? I'm real bad about collecting UFOs. And it's not that switching colors is hard, it's that I have a mental thing about not wanting to do little tight circles. That's why you will find very few patterns of mine that have people. Because with people, you've got to get the faces in there. You have to have eyes, features. Too close. And you'll get better at eyeballing where your needle's going to come down. Just like you'll get better at keeping your fabric edge where it needs to be for the stitch that you're using on the needle to hit on the foot. But you see, I'm not having to push it through. I'm just guiding it along. Oh, that caught on my thread a little bit there. No, I'm sorry. And I'm probably not going to get a bunch of these finished today, but I felt like it right now. I think I can do one block before I go lay down again. And for those of you wondering, John is doing better. He's a couple days ahead of me on this, and he had the Paxlovid to help him through it. is an easy block to do. I try to not have a lot of sharp turns. I like my patterns to be user-friendly. I don't want anybody to make something and go, oh my goodness, I don't ever want to do a fat cat pattern again, that was awful. I want people to enjoy it and have fun and have a good time with their hobby. A hobby shouldn't be work, it shouldn't be a chore. Done here. And when you first start out, this can really make your shoulders hurt. You're not used to, to concentrating and guiding it and pivoting and everything. And just take a break. Take a break, stretch. It's not as bad as free motion quilting, but we do tend to sit at our machines and get a little bit tense. Put a movie on in the background, put some music on in the background. Just something that will help you relax. That's hanging up on my throat plate down here. I think the worst part on this quilt is going to be the tails. There's a lot of pivoting. And you don't want to try to force it. You want to pivot. I'm doing this with, like I said, the double blanket stitch. You could also do it with a zigzag or a satin stitch or a straight stitch just along the edge. Come on, little pigtail. Everybody has their own personal preference, and you do what works for you. There's nothing set in stone. There's no hard rules. And every machine is different too. Every machine will behave differently with different stitches and give you different results. And that's why if you start a project and you have multiple sewing machines, that project should stay with that machine from start to finish. Because otherwise you're going to, I have in the past, I've started a quilt on one machine and had something happen and had to switch to another machine and finished half the blocks on one and half on another. And then I go to put the quilt together, and even though all the stitches were the same stitch, I could tell, oh, I used the singer on this one. Oh, I used the brother on that one. And that's not anything that anybody else is going to notice, but we are so critical of our own work. Glaring mistakes for us, nobody else sees. So, give yourself some slack. swing around into the rest of the ear. And no, appliquing, even by machine, is not fast. You're going to put hours into your project. That's why we kind of giggle at people. Can't you just make me a quilt in a weekend? Well, maybe I could if I didn't eat or sleep or anything like that. So what do I do with all the test quilts that I made? I've given so many quilts away. So many. I've donated to charity. I've donated to businesses. I've donated to schools for raffle quilts. I really don't have that many quilts of my own here at the house. I've got a few of my favorites hanging on the wall. But to me, it feels almost conceited, you know, to have someone walk in and say, "Oh, did you make that?" Well, yeah, but then I don't like being the point of attention. And even though I enjoy looking at the quilts on the walls and the memories from making them and all that, when someone brings it to my attention, I'd much rather say, "Oh no, I bought that," or "That was somebody else's." I don't like bragging on myself. Oh, almost done. And yes, I will go back and do the faces in black, since I'm making a point of showing you start to finish how the testing process is. That's going to make me motivated to actually finish the block, so you'll be able to see a finished top that has the eyeballs done. Anyway, my poor Robin, I sent her a box of my UFOs so that she could practice and learn more about quilting. And of course, they looked like they were finished blocks and they were ready to be sewn into a top. I said, "Robin, check the faces, check the eyes." She says, "Oh, you didn't do the faces." No, that's my one bad habit. All right. Now, snip your little threads. I'm also bad about snipping threads. If I don't do it when the quilt is at my sewing table. You know, I'll tell myself, oh, I'll do it when I quilt it, I'll do it when I baste it. No, I'm bad. If I don't do it right now, it's not going to get done. So, there we go. There's the first finished piggy. And I'm really happy with how the gray stitching is popping out the face. So, now I'm going to turn off my machine, make myself something hot to drink for my throat, and go sit in my chair for the rest of the day. Bye-bye.